welcome to my podcast,
Thank you.
Decoding Life with Kahan.
Good to be here.
It's my pleasure. So, we're going to discuss just abstract things, some things in detail about life that uh, people like me who are starting to explore a new path are going to, need to understand things. So, like I started my self exploration and development journey now, and I just wanted to learn from the best people around, the most successful and smart people who I look up to, and I think I could learn something from them. So these are just a couple of questions. There's going to be a discussion just over coffee and just boiling down your wisdom to 15-20 minutes so that I can learn very crucial points that I might not be able to pick up from books, or I haven't experienced things. So that's just your experience speaking.
Yeah, okay. I think more like foundational things. So now you said that it is for you and for your personal development and any development. Like I'm in the real estate industry,
Yeah.
we develop lands. How do we begin? So I'll take that as a kind of a metaphor, you can say.
Yeah.
So it is easy for everyone to understand, which is when we acquire a land and we want to develop it, the first thing is that we do the measurements so that accordingly we can have the right plans. So that is comparing that with human life. Measurement is what you are now, what you have, right? And the point B is where you want to reach, which is pointless to kind of pinpoint because you can never exactly pinpoint where you want to be. I mean, fine, in dreams we can,
Yeah.
but future is uncertain, so we cannot pinpoint it, but we can have a general direction,
Yes.
right? So coming back to land, that's what we do. Then we do the cleanup, whatever is on the ground, and if it is not required, then we clean it up.
Yeah.
So in our human context, we clean up things which are not required, or we at least put it aside and make space for the development. So cleanup could be a very harsh word in human context, but you organize the space for development. So in us, we kind of make some space, be it in our time, in our attention,
Yeah.
or if we are investing our energy somewhere else, we try to minimize that and focus somewhere else. And then begins the excavation. You remove what is not required at that point in time, which is in case of development of land, we go digging, we extract the dirt. So we can have the space for foundation.
Solid foundation. Yeah.
That's the word, that foundation. And the other word is I would like to call is framework. Once you have a proper framework in place, the development is possible. In construction language, we have scaffold, right, around which or within which the building comes up. So framework is required, and I think the framework which you have created and I saw is it makes a lot of sense, because if you boil down what do we all want in life, the generic words could be good health, good mental health. Nowadays that's a popular word, so we cannot say that we can include that into mental and physical health. Let's give a separate head to it, mental
definitely.
health. Then the third, I think, is the financial health. And the fourth, which comes as a happiness. As we discuss, happiness is a very simple word which I think covers a lot of areas of life, which is my relationship with myself. Then the second is my relationship with people around me.
Yeah.
And the third is the world at large. So, but it begins by how I am connected to my own self. That's where I think it begins. That's foundational, and then so on and so forth. I cannot say I love the whole world, but I hate myself. That is pointless. It's like multiplying a big number by zero. It's zero.
Yes.
So the framework, like I said, makes a lot of sense. And talking in these zones is like a focused approach into that. It's possible that we come up with with more accurate answers because we're talking within that zone, so it will make sense for listener also
Yeah.
કે કયા સબ્જેક્ટ પર વાત થઈ રહી છે and so on.
બરાબર છે. Talking about your land analogy before we start, like Surat is a very big industry for real estate, I'm sure. તો પેલું કાચું જમીનનું તો બહુ ચાલે. તો we can have a good foundation, we can have a good framework, but what if the land that we have acquired is in the wrong place, or it's you know, તમે સમજો છો શું બોલું
Yes, yes.
કે we've done a good framework, we have a good foundation, but what if it's in the wrong place where it shouldn't be? How
In case of land, if it is at a wrong place, there is no wrong place per se, but you are right. Let me rephrase it that today it is not at the right location. It's underdeveloped, it's remote, it's far away.
Yeah.
And it's possible. So in that case, there are two strategies. One is wait for the right time, or we develop it in such a way that it becomes point of attention for people who were not paying attention. So this building was kind of, you can say, premature project.
Yeah.
We thought that the area around will develop, and so we'll get the attention and everything. So the area did not develop, but we created the building which is so outstanding that even today, even if it is a remote location, people know where this building is.
Yeah.
We accept that still the time has not come, but we have kind of compensated that deficit by creating a better building. So likewise, that if you're talking about human growth, if you are wrongly placed in the context of the whole world, then make yourself so good that you get the limelight, you get the attention, which is a very difficult thing, and you might need help of a lot of people. But I think seeking help is easy nowadays. If you sincerely ask for help, people will help with their capacity and their intentions, but I think help is available. Point is that someone who wants to develop has to stand up and ask. You can't expect like a rain, someday it will fall, you have to bring the rain.
Exactly. Like even for this podcast of mine, I have reached out to so many people, successful people who are big businessmen, and they've all agreed to give me some amount of their time, like be it big deal for them or small deal for them. Like 15 minutes might not be something for them, but for me it could be a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that's one, I think, lesson for everyone listening, that if you need help, ask for it. And people will be more than happy to help. So most of the time, people like me who are very introvert would wait for someone to come and help. Maybe that approach is not the best approach. And young generation is much more outgoing and good communicator compared to, I would say, 20 years back. So which is a plus.
Yeah. So anyways, let's start with the topics.
Sure.
What do you think you would like to talk about?
It all begins from my point of view with good physical health. If I'm physically not well, then everything else will not make sense. Neither my attention will go, because all I want is good health, and I can't see anything. It's almost like a hungry person who is looking for food, and then you talk philosophy, that person will say, I need food first. So with that context, if we talk about health first, then it's a foundation. And I think we talked that if things are built on proper foundations, then there is possibility that it will stand the test of time.
Yeah, true. When I started as an intern in finance, so when I was learning about wealth creation, like you create a big amount of wealth for your retirement, for your other life, and you invest so that you can have financial independence and all of those important things. One important factor that my employer told me was that you need to be physically fit. If you have big dreams of skydiving, of exploring the world, but you're in a wheelchair at the age of 60, that's not going to matter, is it? So I learned that it was a very important factor in all of the things. And I would also like to discuss with you the correlation of physical and mental health, because many people disagree that they don't go hand in hand. Many people say that they do go in hand. Like if you are physically fit, that will help you become mentally fit. So what is your view or take on that? Like
two things. The understanding of physically fit is not clear to the whole world, I would say, generally, very clearly. So, when we talk about physical health, people would start imagining someone lifting weights and doing those funny things.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would say that let's go back in time 50,000 years ago. How were our ancestors keeping fit? There was no protein and no gyms and no YouTube videos to show them, neither any coach or instructor, nothing. And they survived, therefore, we are sitting here.
Yeah.
So, if they were not healthy, we wouldn't be here. Something that they used to do, I think it's a matter of our imagination, because we do not have any substantial evidence of what they did. But at least we know they didn't have any so-called today's resources available. So they lived their life in a very routine way. So whatever work they did was giving them enough physical exercise, you can say,
Yeah.
to keep them in the condition where they can produce children at least.
Getting their own food, getting their own water,
Yes, yes.
walking. Yeah.
And therefore next generations and next generation kept on coming, and then this is where we are. So I think that being generally active when you feel like being active and resting when you feel like resting is a good strategy, because they did not have timetables. They did not have commute hours, and did not have 10 a.m. meetings. So they must be doing work when they feel like, and then resting when they feel like. Respecting your body's requirement is the first thing. So any strict discipline from outside, I don't think helps a lot. You need to have a self-discipline to understand your own inner needs.
Yeah.
When do I need, when I'm in good mood to work out or exercise or walk, and when I am in mood to rest. And if I can understand that thing, the calling from within, then I think I have won half the game.
Definitely.
Asking any expert, so-called expert, about what I should do is never accurate, because if I cannot understand my needs, how can the other person understand? So he will be imposing certain strict routine, and within which I will try to adjust for some time, and then finally things will fall. So that's one thing. Second is that I think physical health, from my point of view, begins with good guts. In human body, this is the center portion, right? This is where everything begins and ends from my point of view. So good guts is something which does not come by the routine physical activities directly.
Yeah.
It's a separate subject, and it requires some study and some understanding of how you can create good guts. So combining these two things, the physical movement and agility and things, including flexibility and some weightlifting or some strength training and so on, variety of things, playing sports, etc. And the second is the food side, which I think I wouldn't say diet, but I'll say point is to create healthy guts. You can Google it. There are so many books and there are so many information available today how to create good guts. These two things combined will help a lot to create better brain. With single point, probably it's not the great strategy. So I think it stands on these two legs.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you think is what is your routine on having a good healthy gut and proper workouts or
workout? I think because of our previous relation with so many friends in the fitness industry, we got to know how a simple but dependable workout can be designed. So I've designed that for myself. I do modification at times depending upon season. In summer it's a little lighter, in cooler season it's a little stronger, because I enjoy it. There is no strict rule, but I think it has become like a ocean tides, according to moon cycles. It changes. So that's one. And I do have certain routines for gut health, call it Ayurveda.
Okay.
And also I like to study and experiment fasting with myself. It's not a general thing. It cannot be recommended to others. Like it's a
Personal thing, yeah.
awareness and self-knowledge that this works with me, so I'm experimenting with it. I do tell people to try it, but it's very individual depending upon your metabolic system. You have to experiment and find out what is the best optimal point of eating window and fasting window. That's kind of my simple approach.
True. And when we do talk about mental health, apart from having a good gut and having physical fitness, what are the other factors like having hobbies or maintaining good relationships that play a key role in your day to day life? Like, not only on your personal well being, but even on your work life. Like, how do those things play a key factor?
Uh, it's almost like eating. There is a mental eating. The impressions that we take in through our five senses, it goes to our brain. If you start to notice what happens when you have certain type of input into your brain, what are the results, then eventually, gradually, it becomes kind of a learning curve. And you come to a point that certain things don't make you feel happy or quiet or peaceful. So you slowly start to go away from those things, and you would know what makes you feel good on the mental level. You go towards that thing. So that's a result of observation. There is no direct path, right? Everyone has an independent path, individual. So observation of what makes me feel better and what does not make me feel better. That's just an observation, and the nature will automatically take you into the place where you. One example is you stop feeding a lot of information to yourself. Sometimes it's like an addictive thing. You just like to browse information, internet, various things. That's like part, and that happens. But because of that thing, you can't sleep properly, or you have a lot of thoughts and everything. So gradually, kind of the wheel balances. You go to the information, but something which is very crisp and focused, not like a general open window in every. I mean, we have a door. We do not have wall-less room. The dust would come. So we have filters, and we have single door, and so on. So something like this has to happen with the mind also, so mental health can improve. The air quality in this room is good. Why? Because we have filters. We do not let anybody walk inside this. We do not keep windows open all the time. Same thing happens with mind. You should know what is happening.
It's selective trial and error.
Yes.
That only comes with experience.
But I think intensity of observation can shorten the time.
It can.
So that's the reason of discussing this thing here, that people who have said how to do it, then the how to is not elaborate, it's very simple. Be a keen observer, what happens. And the simple thing is, at the end of the day, do kind of a journal keeping, mental journal if you say, if not the physical journal. But at the end of the day, do the accounting of your mind, of your day, last, say 16 hours, morning you woke up to the point where you are ready to sleep. What happened, right? And there's no critical, judgmental observation, just simple, what happened? Tell yourself what happened and go to sleep. That is the observation which will automatically trigger something.
We're so caught up in Instagram and all the social media and the hectic life now because of too much social awareness that people don't stop and reflect. Like the last time we were talking, you said that you'll rarely find people who take an hour to themselves and pause and reflect on what is happening. So that's a very good observation that you gave me and I took. And after I did that, I also found out points that I'm wasting time somewhere. This could have been better in a certain way. And even if it's not about improving, it's just realizing a lot of stuff that you just forget.
It's almost like cleaning up the room. There's dust and you say there is dust and you start cleaning. May happen that there's not all dust, there could be things useful, so you put it at the right place. It's not lying on the floor. That's how you do with your time and attention. Everything is not useless. Probably there is, in a esoteric terms, there is nothing useless. Everything has a right place. But also cleaning has a right place. You do that and then things will take a different shape.
Definitely. And talking about mental health, I would also like to ask you the role of spirituality in your daily life, because there are not many people who are keen on understanding what spirituality is, or when you talk about spirituality, they'll often think of it कि हाँ ये तो yoga की बात कर रहा है or something like that. So what is an important thing that you would like to just leave me with, like if I want to start somewhere?
I think the point which we discussed of reflecting is good enough.
Yeah.
Other things could become kind of superimposed. You wear a cap which fits your head and then you say, I'm wearing this. Mostly spirituality is taken in that way. Again, nothing is wrong. It's a play which nature is playing with us. But if someone is sincere about, when spirituality is basically knowing yourself, when you start reflecting on what you did, things automatically start to take certain shape in your head. So anything ready-made, taking it as a prescription will not work.
Yeah.
I mean, we can try. The world is open, all the resources are available. But the best thing one can do, which I have realized after so many years, is that I'm not recommending books now. But it depends, it's very individual. So we're talking about a general youngsters, then I think reflection.
Yeah.
Every day. And learn to enjoy that process. Initially, it will happen that you will not find it very useful because there are so many pathetic things happen during the day you don't want to even remember that.
Yeah.
So you say, I just want to sleep. It happens with me even now. But it has become kind of a routine, and I have acquired the understanding, the skill to enjoy my reflections. So enjoy is very important. Unless you find some happiness in things you are doing, you will not be able to do it for long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which includes physical workout. If you are not enjoying your workouts, if it's a bitter pill for you, you won't be able to do it longer. And then it's a very bad period of your day where you have to work out. Why not make it interesting?
Yeah.
So again, find something which you really enjoy. If that is your physical movement, then you would look forward to next day's session of doing something physical. And same thing with reflection. That's all. In spirituality, if I can use that word, which the word is highly contaminated, let's talk something very practical and which is useful on personal, professional, and interpersonal level is reflection. And again, not be judgmental, this was right and this was wrong. No, this was. That's how the observation or the reflection should be.
Yeah.
Don't be a judge of your own crimes. There is no crime.
Yeah. True. I started reading about spirituality and I came across some heavy stuff, like how you can be one with yourself and explore yourself. So you take over your 5 senses when you have control over them. That after that you can understand your mind better. And that's when you will realize who you are as an individual. You'll realize all of that. But I realize that stuff is not for me right now. That's way too advanced. So
And mostly it happens so that when you read something like this, that also becomes a layer. You go a step away from yourself because then you have another filter between you and yourself.
yeah.
But maybe it has a role to play. So eventually all these so-called borrowed layers fall away and you come in face to face with yourself, and that's a real meeting. Getting somebody else is like getting a mediator in between you and yourself. Maybe a spiritual guru or a books or a theory or a practice, but you're bringing these layers in between and you are just increasing the distance.
Yeah.
Versus without any judgment, look at yourself and things will happen.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. Yeah. And when we talk about all of this, when we talk about giving time to ourselves, reflection, thinking about our day, how do people like you manage time so well? Because you focus on a lot of things. It's not just कि you have a
No, I'm not extremely busy, honestly.
Okay.
And it depends, depending upon the nature of work of a particular day in a week. There could be workload, but apart from that, it's pretty much stable.
Yeah.
And I go back to the same thing. Reflection is not just spiritual thing for me. I reflect with my journal. And usually when I begin the day in the office and I close my day at the office, these are the 2 times when I reflect with my journal. This is a different type of reflection. The one I mentioned was sitting right before I'm ready for sleep.
Yeah.
That's a very holistic reflection. But this process of journal keeping, so begin my day with journal, what happened yesterday. Then throughout the day I keep making entries like this is what we are doing. I'll put a short note of what happened and how I felt about it, kind of my instant reflection on this particular session. And likewise, at the end of the day, I have a full day's reflection where I know what happened, where I know what needs to happen tomorrow. So those things go into my calendar
Okay.
or task to do, etc.
Yeah.
So that tomorrow I don't need to refer my journal because certain things are time bound, and for that mobile phone is very useful. So at the end of the day, like in accounting, you have first is journal keeping, right? And then you do summarization
Yeah.
or classification, I think. So this is my summary, that at the end of the day, I put things from my journal to wherever they belong so that they come in at the right time. And that is helpful. Sometimes there are lapses and there are goof ups, but I know that this is the basic framework which I need to go back to a little bit more attentive to that thing, and things fall into the right place. That's it. This is, I think, for me, kind of the amount of workload I have, this is enough.
Yeah. So till now, for me, ignorance was total bliss, and then I used to ignore all of the key factors that would help me develop myself. But after I realized what reflection really is, what it helps us become, I started to understand that I need to do that better. I need to reach to place on time. Like, there are many things that I'm doing wrong, but I used to just ignore the fact. But once you reflect on that and you just put it out there, for 5 days I can think, I was not on time. That brings me to the fact, no, I need to change that.
Right.
So that is.
And kind of looking at the next day's schedule at a glance will kind of trigger your brain at the right time. If you have 5 p.m. meeting, your brain will remind you 4:30 and this is 5 p.m. So it's all automatic, but just kind of a little prior visualization of the next day's rough cut. That's good enough, I think.
Yeah. And let's just move on to another factor now. Let's talk about financial health, because that is also one of the very big key factors that we can talk about. And let's just start from where you are right now. Like, what is the scale of your business and why do you have less work? I'm sure you must be very well set up.
So we, as a team, we have a good team, first of all. That's one reason.
Yeah.
There are workaholic people. Therefore, I have less work.
Yeah.
My work is to make sure that the overall framework is maintained so that we can keep building upon it. So we have a divided kind of work and each person is focusing in their areas. Therefore, we have less work, I think, on my part, but there are people who are extremely busy also because they enjoy their nature of work. Second point is that we do not overload. We generally take one project at a time, the large project. Apart from that, there are many small, but they are not requiring our full-time attention.
Yeah.
So we do that thing. We think that wealth building is a slow process and it requires very patient and calm mind. And that's what we are doing. We do want to develop wealth in a systematic way. You can say organic, almost like a tree grows.
Yeah.
You cannot make tree grow faster by pouring double, triple water.
Yeah.
There is pace to it, and we understand that, and that's how we do things. And it's an interesting subject, wealth building or wealth management, and almost every subject of the world is associated with core subject of wealth building. Wealth building does not happen by lack of knowledge, or it may happen by luck, which is a big factor.
Very big factor.
But that's not in our control. So we have to constantly prepare. Even if luck is not on our side, we can prepare to minimize the risk.
Yes.
I think that's one thing we can do. Increasing wealth is, I think, matter of luck and a lot of other factors, but reducing requires good thinking. That's when the risk management comes, and probably if you do not make any serious silly mistakes, then the wealth should naturally grow by itself.
Yeah.
So it's almost like hedging a tree or a plant. You take care of that, minimize the risk of animals coming and attacking that thing, the tree will grow. So I think hedging is more important part than making that tree grow faster, because sometimes may overkill.
Yeah. If you let it grow organically, you can see the surroundings flourish as well.
There are obvious mistakes. If they are avoided, then wealth would grow. However, it takes time. That's where human temperament comes in.
Yeah. Humans are not made for the long run, are they?
Very few are.
Ah.
So it's good to have team where you have someone with very good temperament. And if he is given certain department where he has to take care of this tree, then other whom are little hasty would feel okay that there is someone. So I think this wealth building, if individual is focusing on that, either that person needs to develop good temperament by learning the right skills, or a good team with few people who have very good temperament is a good strategy.
Yeah. And when you talk about having a team, you're obviously leading them. So, what can be other factors than just financial incentives to keep them motivated? Because you have to rub off some ideology on them too, so that they can understand your vision. Because as leaders, you can't, like, I heard from someone that you work for your employees, they don't work for you. You make them understand what is your vision, and they will help you get there. So, what can you say?
I think long term, for long term success, our lives are divided into days, basically. If each day is nice in terms of people feeling good in their heads, because visions and these things are like too far away things. Okay, every time you talk about vision, somebody will laugh.
Yeah.
As a boss, if you talk about vision whole day, it wouldn't make much sense to the people. So I think making their days nicer and making something they look forward to, making them part of your success, because there is one which is thing called profit sharing with employees. So depending upon firm's progress, if that profit or whatever is shared with the employees, then they become part of the whole vision. It's not just stories anymore, it's a hard cash which comes at the end of the year. That could be one strategy. Keeping eyes and ears and brain open for all the suggestions is another thing. There is no stupid question and there is no stupid answer, but we analyze based on merits. If that environment is in the office, then usually people feel free to share their point of views. And I think that keeps the environment liquid, motion, you connect with people. And I think it's basically, we are all humans, we like to connect with people. When there is a disconnect, eventually you start to drift away. So that magnetism has to be there, and then that is a human skill. You can't be too friendly with employees, that is also there. But at the same time, you can't be enemy with the employees. So somewhere in between, the right balance. That's, I think, so you share yourself with people in terms of financial, in terms of knowledge, in terms of well-being, and that sharing keeps people together. And I think together is like if there is a team of 10 people, then it becomes one person with 10 faces, and that is the strength. There is a soul to that team, a single soul. So it's like your two arms could be separate, but they're attached, and that makes you one person. Likewise, if there are 10 people in the team, that is one body with 10 different parts working together remotely. Just like if you have read, there is a book on ants, and we still do not know how exactly they function, but they work like one body, made of million ants. And one comes to know about something, the other comes to know. There is no language, at least we can't hear them talking, but still they would know. So it is almost like one body. We have this fixed notion that a body should be connected. You cannot have a finger separate running there. Therefore, we apply that model everywhere, but that's where I think we are wrong. So in case of ants, these are separate physical separate bodies, but it's part of one soul. That's what we have to learn from them when we create teams, that we can be, we are better evolved species. I'm sure we can do much better things than ants can do. Maybe we just need to recall and remind ourselves that this is possible.
Definitely. And when we talk about your business, like you're a leader, so do you have any other sources of incomes, or do you believe in having passive incomes generated from other revenue or from other venues, or do you think just focusing on one thing is good enough for you?
I think that the subject of asset allocation should be studied by everyone, and we do have resources I can share with you whenever it is required. Uh, and it's a very interesting subject because the world is growing. Today we can invest in any part of the world, in any business, whichever is listed. Of course, unlisted is difficult. For that, you need personal connections. But apart from that, there is plenty of sufficient listed businesses across the world, and probably we can now invest in any part of the world. Any type of product, any type of instrument. So, thinking from the risk factor point of view and your risk appetite, this is where the right balance or a sweet spot is something we have to find. And based on that, if you do start allocating in various instruments, I think that's a better strategy, because expecting one instrument or one area of asset allocation to grow and not focusing elsewhere is not a great strategy.
Yeah.
Again, you are depending a lot on luck to make that one area expand more than the others, which is possible. Nothing is wrong, but like the way I think is that I would like to diversify and make a very well diversified portfolio with different types of asset allocation. That is required for every person, be it beginner or be it someone who has already been ahead in the game.
Yes.
And I think it is more important for people who have established and who have sufficient things to lose.
Yeah.
That's when I think asset allocation is much more
very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
But beginning and having that mindset from the beginning is a very good thing.
Yes.
It's a subject one has to study. Not a very difficult subject, very interesting, but that's the word, asset allocation.
Yeah. And diversification, as you talked about, is very important because, like, if we talk about just these four factors that we're talking about, relying on just one factor and thinking our life will become great is a very stupid thing to do, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the future is changing very fast.
yeah.
It's exponentially increasing the speed of change.
Yeah.
And therefore, a lot of old rules will have to be recalibrated. And we still don't know what kind of new asset allocation areas will emerge.
Yeah.
But having interest in that will keep you open and observant to the world, and that probably could be your opportunity.
Yeah, and not even being interested, but just having knowledge of certain things, because like ChatGPT has almost entirely, become a substitute for content writers, you could say, in a way. So we don't know the extent of things that can happen now, because in technology, in medicine, humanity is taking leaps. So we must be very knowledgeable in diversifying ourselves.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. And if we talk about all of this, being knowledgeable and having asset allocation, diversification in life, and boiling down to the key aspects of being physically, mentally fit, where do you think does a person become a great thinker? Like, differentiating yourself from others. And even if not about others, how can you realize that you have come ahead in life when when your level of thinking has changed, when you have developed a good gut feeling?
When you start questioning your own self.
Okay.
When I start questioning my yesterday's beliefs, then things start to change, because questioning others is easy. Making other people look wrong is easy. But contradicting my own yesterday's ideas keeps me open for today's and tomorrow's new ideas, my opinions. And I think we usually put ourselves into prison called our opinions. And we keep it so strong that we can't escape them. So most of us are in kind of, let's say, self-imposed asylum, which is a problem, which probably we did it because it was the thing to do that everyone was doing, and we thought we should also have opinions. But gradually the opinions became so strong that they are not letting us go out and we are locked inside. So keeping those opinions as guardrails, not as prison walls. Guardrails because you want to have a path which is safer. You don't want to fall every step of the way.
Yeah.
So these opinions should be your guardrails, but you can jump over it when time comes. And there is no point at which you think you are, the day you think you are a great thinker, you are in trouble. So when that happens,
Yeah.
wake up and tap your head. Great thinker, okay. So point is that it's an infinite field. It keeps growing.
It's ever learning curve.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So this one, I think this was the core strategy is not to hold your opinions too tightly. Be it any kind of opinion, about yourself, about others, about the world, or about religion or spirituality or wealth management. There are certain fixed ideas which lock people, and then probably that could be harmful.
Yeah.
So put them around you like a decoration, but not the hard walls.
Yeah, and that's where beliefs and values play an important role. Like opinions are a very, you can say, a risky thing, but beliefs and values can be very important here because when I was talking to a person, they told me that many people might not have a purpose in life and they don't know how to come about that idea. But even if you are down that path thinking about what you want to do, where you want to lead your life, you can have a frame of beliefs and values and have that proper set of ethics that I'm going to rely on these things. I'm not going to go out of this. I'm not going to not adhere to this and play in a negative way. So I'm just going to follow this, and by following that you can go down a path where you keep growing, and then a certain purpose will open up for you, so that you can clearly identify something later on. So you can kind of say that it's a goalless journey, not destination fixed, but once you keep going down that path and you are sure that I don't want to do this, and you realize that now I'm liking this, I'm enjoying this, I can see myself going in this direction, then you can identify a vision or destination for yourself in the end. And that was a very good thing that I learned. But what I've also come across is that people don't realize the distance of things in their life, like where they were when they started, where they are right now, and what they want to be. So like we talked about a gap last time.
Yes.
So how do you think that people should realize what a gap is, and how much of an important factor does that play in life?
Like I mentioned that knowing the gap is automatic. Based on your physical health, you would think that what level of physical health you can have or you want to have, and there is a gap. One way is like a river which starts from top of a mountain, and maybe if we say the river was a person, that river knows where is the ocean. But river does not try to sprint. River flows based on the gravity. It takes the next step and then it keeps going, or you can say the gravity makes the river move from point A to point B. River does not hold itself into certain areas forcibly, it just lets itself free and keeps moving. So that I think is a human life, that no matter how hard plans we make, life will take us. We are rivers. Life will take us into directions whichever is designed for us. So keeping open is important, not locking on to certain things, and learning everything on the way. It need not be from the experts and so-called wise people, but even if you sit with the person whom you think is not having that much knowledge or wisdom or life experiences, you still meet because it was destined for you to meet that person, and it was destined for you to learn something from that person, even if it is so called, we have labeled it something stupid, but it came to you there was reason for it. If we have this open mindset, then I think the journey of life becomes much more enjoyable, because you cannot avoid certain incidents which will happen to you, which are predestined. So keeping open and keeping that mindset that everything is happening for my learning, right? Even your anger is for your learning. So you can't even reject that thing, because if you start rejecting your own things, then you have an inner split, which is again a problem. So even the emotions and the instincts which you have inside you, which are happening because of something happening outside, are part of your ecosystem. And you start to learn from those, that why was I angry, or why was I jealous, right? That is the great education, and I think that is the 80% of education. We spend a lot of time in the outside world, trying to change the outside world, which you can't change. What you can do is observe what is happening because of those outside things in your inner world, and that is your 80% education. It's happening for reasons, and it's a very individual journey of what happens when you do that. So I cannot start prescription of you do this and this will happen. No, it's very individual, but it's magical. That observation of your inner ecosystem is magical, and that's I think, if that's the approach, then everything will happen. Even we use these words, and I often feel confused because I'm not from English medium. So certain areas of English language makes me a little questioning mode. Beliefs and values and all these things, that's fine. I did NLP, so we had those things, elaborate enchilada of values and beliefs, and it kind of does not make too much sense for me, because it's too much. And you are a very unique individual. What combination of things you have is unique. Enforcing certain values and belief on other people is like putting clothes which does not fit you. You can try to fit inside it, and then, but it will be a very cramped life. So let them come. It will come. As long as you're observing what's happening, that's, I think, the fundamental basic building block of everything. You might not be able to label certain beliefs and values, but they'll be there. As long as they fit in your ecosystem. So forcibly saying something, because English is a very, very tricky language. There are certain words which, if you ask 10 people, there are 10 different meanings. So labeling something is a little risky business. Instead of labeling, let just it be. It's like you have some friend, and you want to say, what do I have relationship with that person? Sometimes it's difficult. Right? So not labeling things, keeping it whatever it is naturally, because a rose does not know my name is Rose, but it still is a rose. So that's how life should be. Keep learning.
Learning is like an ever learning process.
And again, not forcible learning. You have to learn. No, that does not work. Learning happens, but just keeping yourself open. And if whatever is happening is for my learning, if that mindset develops on its own, you can't again develop forcibly. But it just happens sometimes. You listen to someone, you hear something, you read something, and something happens. And it's almost like digestion. You can't eat something and force your body to digest it. Digestion will happen if it has to happen, or else it will revoke. So likewise, all these learning, you just kind of expose yourself to these learning opportunities, and learning, if it has to happen, will happen. And that's wonderful. It's almost like a plant grows into a tree on its own. Nobody forced anything on it. That's how understanding also develops. Keeping open as long as you can, without any force.
And sometimes I think that some things are not meant to be for learning things. Like it can just happen to happen. Or it can be like just something for a lesson learned, something like that. It's not always like कि हाँ इसमें से learning outcome मिलना ही चाहिए वो.
It's almost like children's book, and they say moral of the story. And now people say that don't teach them moral of the story. Let them acquire their moral of the story. So something like that. I think that applies to everyone.
Definitely. And when we talk about this, overall, when we talk about a gap, when we talked about reflection, when we talked about including all of the factors together that play a very big role in our life, what do you think is good perception of seeing the gap lying. Like, if I want to be somewhere, like in present I'm a business owner, I have revenue of 5 crores, I want to be at 500 crores, I can see that vision, and I can think of it in two different ways. Like we discussed, it can be mathematical or it can be emotional. So, both the approaches can be good in a certain way, but how does bridging the gap, in,
That's the word.
yeah.
You said it. Bridging the gap.
Hmm.
So get clear about where you want to be as much as possible. There is no absolute clarity possible, but as much as you can be. And to reach that point, right, that's your point B, and you are at point B. To reach that point, you will need a bridge. What can be that bridge? And if you can think over it, read over it, meet people and talk about it, then step by step the bridge will start to get ready. There are so many elements in the bridge.
Yeah.
So try to find out what will make you reach point B, right? And amount of time can also be estimated, like any project of a bridge, let's say, for example. There is a timeline, there is a cost, there is manpower, and so on and so forth. It's a
Yeah.
project. Having point B is a wonderful thing, that you have an aspiration to reach somewhere, wonderful. Aspiration does not come on its own. Nature has given you aspiration. And if you dedicate yourself towards that, you will also find out, you will also get the right information at the right time how to build the bridge. So use that in emotional way to aspire for that thing, and to in a mathematical way to calculate all these aspects needed for the bridge. Just dreaming is dreaming, right?
Yeah.
That means you just enjoy dreaming. That's also good. Dream. But you also dream of reaching there, then you will also feel like working on it to do certain preparations, which may be like a swing process. Someday you are very strong that I want to learn this thing. Someday you are in a quiet mode and don't want to recuperate, which is fine. Learn that rhythm like oceans and use the forces whenever they are strong to learn to make the bridge. When you feel tired, rest, but then eventually you will reach there.
Yeah.
So you have to design your journey. And maybe I think one approach which I often talk about, and it's mostly laughed at by most of my friends, write a book.
Yeah.
You want to be this person, write a book about that person, what that person has, attributes, qualities, skill sets, knowledge, and then eventually you will reach there, and you will teach other people also how to reach there, someone who has the same kind of aspiration.
And when you talk about doing as per we like the cycle of an ocean, that one day you will be very strongly feeling about reaching there, and one day you will want to rest. We can also talk about that like motivation. So like there is motivation, someday you're very motivated, some days you're not, but should we just go with the flow of our motivation, or should we create a discipline?
It's good to have some sort of framework, so you are not doing it when you are not doing it. But like I said, a framework, not a prison.
Yeah.
Right? Don't make it painful so much so that you eventually hate that because each day is important. We do not know tomorrow will be there or not. So it's also important to give attention to today's well-being.
Yeah.
So discipline is definitely helpful, but don't make it your boss that you just have to do it. That's how I think I see things. You have to be little slack with yourself. And your relationship with yourself, that's I think foundational. My book is only about that subject, and I thought I have many other subjects for which I'll be writing eventually, but I felt that this first one is the first one. It's about your relationship with yourself. Once that gets sorted, then you are a team. Otherwise, it happens that you are multiple people inside your head, but they're all not in agreement with each other. So it's a divided team and it's not moving anywhere. They're all pulling in different directions. But when as a team they come together and pull in one direction, then there is progress.
Yeah.
That's the reason that the name of the book is Undivided Mind.
Okay.
Usually it is divided, so you have 4 different things you want to do and you end up sitting and doing nothing. But if there is an agreement that out of 4 different things you say, okay, this one wins all the votes and then the team is again okay, let's do this. It's like playing cricket. There could be different opinions that there should be fast bowler, there should be slow bowler or spin bowler. But at the end, the captain takes everybody's vote and says, okay, let's try fast bowler, and then everybody says, okay, let's try that, and they're all then the fielders don't say that, okay, I don't agree with it, so I'm going out of the stadium.
Yeah.
Then the team will not win, and that's happening inside our heads. So it's about uniting a team, making one decision, and then that decision is taken care of. And that's how a team can win, that's how an individual can win, that's how there is a progress in life.
Yeah.
So that's very important. First thing is that how you connect with your own self.
And when we talk about connecting with our own self, like, how can we understand that someone can also find happiness in the process of doing that, or in the building phase? Because people say there's beauty in the struggle and all of those things, but one might not realize that fact until later. Like, if you talk about your journey, there must be times where you must have realized that maybe this is not for me, maybe I'm going down the wrong way, or I'm doing something wrong. So when can we bridge the gap between our other players in our mind and become that captain who can realize that no, we're doing happy, we're doing things that make us happy, or we're fulfilled enough to not let other things take over us?
Forgive yourself for all the crimes that you think you are doing. That's the first step.
Yeah.
You have a friend who has done something wrong with you. If you want to re-establish the friendship, the first thing is you forgive. So there are so many such friends who are not in good terms with you inside. Forgive all of them. Bring them in your mental conference room and sit together. All these characters, which are your own versions, but you dislike them, so they are not part of the harmony. That's the first step. Forgive all your things, and you forgive them forever, that even in the future they'll end up doing something stupid, I'll be still okay, we are friends. So that bond of friendship has to start with all the different versions of yourself inside you, and they all will come together, and then eventually the happiness factor will return, because friends are happiness, be it outer friends or inner friends.
Yeah.
You have a million parts inside you who are all your version, but if they are not your friends, then that's the sadness that we carry inside our heads. So again, make a bond of friendship with all of them, and the happiness will return, inside or outside. Outside also there are so many friends who are not in good terms. Repair those relations, and the happiness will return.
Yeah. And after this whole discussion, I just have a few more questions, which are like rapid fire, which
Sure.
you can answer in 1 or 2 lines, whatever you feel like. So I would like to ask you, after all of this, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received, like that you think must be the best for you?
Don't listen to anyone,
Okay.
because they don't know.
Hmm.
So listen to them, but don't follow everything which everyone says. Be independent thinker.
Yeah.
That's the best advice I think I have repeatedly received from some of the greatest people.
Okay. Yeah, it's personal game, so
Yes, it is. It's a single player game, like I say.
yeah. And what is the worst piece of advice that you've gotten, but in the future you realize that it was a very good advice?
To go into a project which was incomplete, half-cooked idea. I went in because a lot of people were together, and I was not thinking independently. I was not in capacity to think independently, because probably that at that stage in time or in life, it was not possible for me. But that was the greatest learning experience of my life. So on a hindsight, I think whatever happened was good. It was a negative story, but it turned out to be very positive for me.
Yeah. That's how sometimes I think I see things, like if something negative is happening, I'll just think it's happening because I should learn something from it. I don't know. I'll just see things like a learning thing.
It's always like that.
Yeah. So I don't take it very emotionally. I just say, chalo, I learned something new. Let's move on.
Yeah, that helps.
It has actually over
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And what advice would you give your 18-year-old self after all of the experience you've had, after the wisdom you have right now, if you could go back in time and just say,
Like I am writing a whole book on that subject.
okay,
But at the same time, I think that there are few things which at that point in time I'll be able to understand. So I think that keeping yourself open, and like we said, that building life one day at a time by doing reflection or learning to reflect on what is happening, that's kind of a self-correction loop. And that auto-correction loop, once it sets in, then the journey could be much better. It's almost like reaching the moon is never a straight line. It's always error correction.
yeah,
So if I teach my younger self a little bit of error correction, then compounding will take place, and eventually I think journey will be nicer. And even in the bad experience, like you mentioned, even in the wrong bad experiences, I will see them as a positive inputs in my learning curve. So I think that's small crisp capsule.
yeah, definitely. Like I would, even if I think about that question, like if my future self came and gave me some piece of advice 10 months ago, I would not be able to process some of that because we are not mentally at that phase. So it's an interesting question to think about that. I will surely read your book about that.
Yeah, thank you.
And and what are some regrets that you still have? Because I'm sure many people must, like, most people must have a regret about something, not doing this, not doing that, or anything. Like,
I had some, but now past few years they dissolved because I understand that everything was right whenever and however it happened.
yeah,
Be it mistakes by self or mistakes by other, everything was part of the story. And all I have is gratitude for self and everyone else
yeah,
for being there in my life to do whatever.
yeah,
Positive and negative are labels.
yeah,
They did not decide to do negative things with me, they did not decide to do positive things with me. Things happened
yeah,
through them by nature, and this is where we are sitting. So I think that zero,
zero regrets.
perfect. This is how it was supposed to be,
Should be, yeah.
and this is how it is. It's all wonderful.
Yeah, I can learn from this, but it's a very hard fact to take in life.
It's not you cannot impose this
Yeah,
idea. Let
you
it come,
cannot
let it come. If there are regrets, accept it that there
Yeah.
are regrets, right? Regrets are also friends. They are emotions. They are trying to protect you, and all the emotions are your friends.
Yes.
Let's not label them. There are some friends who are notorious, but they are the dearest friends. Likewise, there are emotions which are notorious, some of them, but they are your friends. Emotions are your friends. That's one thing which I would like everyone to remember
Yeah.
and experiment with it. Don't take my word for it.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now, experimenting only. Anyways, these are all the questions that I had, but this was a very, very thought-provoking discussion.
Yeah, for me as well. I think when you ask questions, there are a lot of answers which emerge because I prefer not to prepare
Yeah.
too much. Sometimes I do, but mostly I keep myself open to see what happens, what answer this body mind mechanism comes up with. That's an interesting part of talking like this.
Yeah, definitely.